Hi everyone, welcome to Afternoon Tea with the Pebble Geo team. We should be live on LinkedIn and YouTube. Thanks for joining us. This is our fourth afternoon tea now. We're doing cross sections, which I think is a good one because periodically we'll have customers get in touch and say, oh, it would be great if you could do cross sections. And we say, well, we already do. So Ben's going to give you a bit of an intro into the cross sections and take you through building one. I'm going to be keeping an eye on the chat on both LinkedIn and YouTube. Hopefully we're live on both now. I'll see if any questions come up. You don't have to, sorry, my phone's just telling me it's working on LinkedIn. If you've got any questions, they don't specifically have to be about sections. Obviously, you can talk about cross sections and ask about cross sections in here. If you've got other questions about Pebble Geo, just use this as an opportunity as you've got our time to jump in on anything to do with the software, really. Ben, are you ready to crack on?
I'm ready to crack on, Tracy.
Lovely.
Yeah.
I'll let you pick up then. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for the intro. So I'm Ben Wood. I'm MD for Pebble Geo. As Tracy said, this is the fourth one we're doing. We're trying to do one of these once every week or so. This week it is cross sections. So without further ado, because we're probably all sat melting in front of our screens at the minute, so I'll try not to keep you too long. So afternoon tea with Pebble Geo cross sections. So cross sections was actually a relatively early feature that we added to Pebble Geo, but it's something that we just like to reinforce from time to time because it's such a powerful tool. And obviously, as geologists and geoscientists, we all love a cross section, right? So we thought it'd be a good topic. I'm going to start off, as I usually do, with the desktop app of Pebble Geo. I'm just going to get some data in. So for this, for demonstration purposes, I'm just going to drag an AGS file in, but it would work the same if it was your own Excel project from the Pebble Geo template as well. This is a real project. I use it quite often for demonstrations. It's the Silvertown Tunnel project, not our data, full disclosure. It's just from the BGS Open Data portal. Okay, so there's a few ways of doing cross sections within the desktop app of Pebble Geo. You can see down the left-hand side, we've got our list of boreholes. And if I know which boreholes I want to connect into a section from left to right, I can just use this list on the left to check them on. So if I check one borehole on, you'll see this little rudimentary plan view appears. It's just a 2D plot of where the holes are relative to each other. And as soon as I click a second one, you'll see in the bottom left here, it's joined the two with a little blue line. And if I just keep clicking on individual boreholes, I don't have to do them in sequence. I can do whichever ones I want. I can skip here if I like. Obviously that line doesn't make any sense, but you get the idea. You can connect them dot to dot, left to right, which means also, although it's drawing a line here in the map, they don't have to have geographic coordinates. So you can do a cross section between your boreholes or trial pits, even if you haven't put geographic coordinates on them. So just to make that clear, this is how to do it. So once I've checked a few boreholes on, I've got a line of section, whether that's visual on the screen or whether it's not, because we don't have coordinates, it doesn't really matter. And I'm going to just click this print section button here. So this little hyperlink in the top right of the kind of map panel is a bit like when you're printing logs, it's a bit like the option screen there in Pebble Geo. It just gives you a few basic print options. I'm not going to label all these just now. I'm just going to accept defaults so we can get a cross section out. So that will just generate the PDF. And you can see here what it's done. Now, what I've done here is I've realized, as with all live demos, I've left it on a weird scaling, but hopefully it gives you the idea of what we've got here. So we've got a few borehole sticks from left to right in the order that I checked them on in that list on the left in the app. And you can see we've got quite a few things sort of switched on here for display. We've got water levels, strike and rest. We've got a backfill column. We've got the geology legend and the material types, okay? And it will also give you a little key down the bottom here as well. So it will detect which material types or legend codes are within that section, and it will display those as a little key. Okay, so I'm going to go back over here and just play around with those options a little bit. So if I go to print again, what I'd left in from me just checking the system before I came on the demo, I'd set a vertical scale on here. So I'm going to delete that. So that's just to show you can set a specific vertical scale if you want all your sections on the same scale. You can give it a title. So if I call that demo section, you can put a checker and approver initials or name in there. you can change which, basically which column it's going to pull on for the labeling. I've got material type switched on. Let's go for SPTs, for example. So I can put my SPT there. And I'm going to switch off a few things here for clarity, switch off water levels, switch off depth labels, switch off the backfill, switch off the pipes. I'm going to put a watermark on. So this is just me showing you a few of the print options to make sure you're aware that they're there. Don't be scared of them. Just have a play with them. As with everything Pebble Geo, printing is quick and easy. So why not just have a go with the settings and then just try different options, okay? So that's your basic sections here. You can see now, instead of the material type, because I've selected SPT, it's going to print my SPT reported values in there. Okay, so the next thing I want to show you is how to do the horizontal scaling. So if I go for print section again, I've got this little checkbox here, horizontal scale on or off. If I check that on and click the print again, what that's going to do is it's going to space those borehole sticks out from left to right relative to their actual geographic distance from each other. So that's just the toggle there. Otherwise, it will just space them equidistantly on the report. So that's just your choice of whether to do that or not. And the next thing I'm going to show you is how to do a buffered section. So we've seen how to do the dot to dot. I'm going to close the little map. I'm going to deselect all my boreholes, and I'm going to start again from here. Let's minimize a few things. Get the, oops, did that end up closed? Get a few things as a background, and right. So it's the same project loaded into Pebble Geo, and instead of checking on boreholes, I'm just going to click this little hyperlink at the top of the borehole list labeled Open Map. So that's just going to open that panel again, but I've got nothing selected at the moment. With nothing selected, the print section button or hyperlink changes to say draw section. So if I click on that, I'm then in drawing mode. So you can see here as I move the mouse cursor, it's showing me the coordinates. If I just click single left click, it will place a point. Okay, so we're drawing a line here. If I have specific coordinates for that inflection point on the profile line, I can type into there. I don't have to, I can just accept whatever value I've clicked on. And then I'm just going to make a line dot to dot like this. Okay. And what it's shown here with this kind of slightly pale brown colored sort of buffer distance is where it's going to pull the boreholes into that line of section. Okay. So I can use these little plus and minus controls to edit the buffer distance. So if I set that, say, at 50 meters, print the section, and we'll see what it does. I'm going to switch off. I'm going to go back to my, I'll switch it to none just for clarity, switch off the watermark. We should see a few borehole sticks there. So probably pulled in a few too many here, but just to show you how that works, it will also give you a label to show how many meters away from that line of section this particular borehole is that's been pulled in using the buffer. Okay. So that is essentially how the cross-section drawing works within the desktop app. But you can also, of course, use the web app. So if you're not familiar with the web app, I encourage you to have a little look at it. I'm going to click across to it. I can find the right tab. So I'm already logged in here. But if you're not logged in and you're using the desktop app, you can just, if I clear the session, in the desktop app, there's a link in the quick links panel, use Pebble Geo in a web browser. If I click that, that will also log you in as well. So you don't have to go straight to the browser. You can go through the desktop app if you prefer. Okay. So for anyone who doesn't know how the web app works, it doesn't store your data. It's going to expect you to upload some data, the same as the desktop app. So let's do that. I don't know why it's closed down my data folder there. Windows and its infinite wisdom. Okay, so I've got my AGS file here. It's the same one that I dragged into the desktop app. As always, this doesn't have to be an AGS file. I'm just using this for speed of demo. It could be your Excel workbook as well. Drag and drop that. That will obviously upload that to the Pebble Geo web app. And when it's loaded and processed that data, it will display the data on the map. It will jump to that location. So basically just, it's going to do the same thing in terms of printing the sections. It just gives you that more rich view from a sort of map-based perspective. So obviously here, again, if you're not aware, you can switch on various layers in the map. So for example, I can switch to BGS geology on and so on. So I can orient myself a little better. I could put the satellite view on so I can get a more precise idea of where I'm going to place my section inflection points, let's say. I'm just going to clear that down for the moment. So if I zoom in a bit, I'll show you how to actually draw the line of section. So you can, if I go over to here, you've got various print options over here where you can print the logs, okay? But unlike the desktop app, you can't really just do the dot-to-dot version of the section here. It's going to expect you to draw a line. So for the eagle-eyed amongst us down here, there's a little sort of polyline tool in the bottom left. And if you hover over that, it will expand out a set of tools. Okay, I'll do that again just to make sure everyone spotted that. And then there's an option, draw a line. So if I click on that, it's going to go into line drawing mode. I can still navigate the map, so I can still pan and zoom with the mouse wheel, etc., drag and pan. But as soon as I start left clicking, it's going to start drawing a line. So it's a bit better in terms of how that shows you visually what it's doing compared to the desktop app, because it shows you the line following around. But it's essentially the same thing. And then in here, I'm going to double click to finish that line. Okay, so it's showing here also as with the desktop app, the buffer distance. And I can control that down here with this little slider. Okay, and I can also, if I want a specific distance, I can type that in. Right. So let's set that, I don't know, 34 meters. And then to print that, there's a little print button here with a PDF logo. Just highlight that in yellow down here with the mouse cursor. If I click that, that takes me to the print screen. Now, all the print options here are the same as you get in the desktop app. It's just the web panel version of that. So if I call that demo section again, give it a title, I can switch on color or not, black and white if I prefer. I can set the scaling and so on. They're all the same options. So if I click generate, it will basically print and download the section. Okay, I haven't pulled any particularly interesting data in here, but one thing I will just show you is, you can see here, I've got pipes switched on. So different things will appear depending A, on what data you've got, and B, on what settings you've put into that print options when you decide to generate the PDF. Okay, so that's essentially it. I don't know if Tracy, if you can think of anything I've obviously omitted. But other than that, that's basically how to draw sections. One final point, actually, just remind me, in the web, the lines are basically ephemeral. So if you draw a line, we draw any line here, okay? As soon as I refresh the page, it will forget it. So just bear that in mind. You're going to draw the line and it's going to forget that when you reload the page. So it doesn't store it anywhere. It's an interactive drawing tool. Okay. So there we go. I will stay in sharing mode for a second. And don't know if Tracy, you can see if there's anything in the chat or any questions. Yeah, I'm going to stop sharing then so I can get back to that. So Tracy, have we got any questions coming in? Appear to have lost Tracy somehow. Where's Tracy gone? Yes. We lost Tracy for a second there, and I didn't even realise she's even sat in the same room as me. So welcome back.
I was in the background desperately trying to get back in. We have had a few questions, but I think they've more or less resolved themselves. Nick came in and asked a question about the grayed out sections along the route can be included even if not selected, but then it appears that you answered the question later on in the session. So that was fine. Holger's asked whether you can repeat how the section can be exported just as PDF.
Repeat how it's exported. So it might be that we've just answered that question on the web. So basically, we don't store anything in terms of that within Pebble Geo. So if you draw a line in the web app, it won't remember that. You have to draw it. You'd have to redraw it. It's the same in the desktop app. If you click dot to dot or if you draw a line, it's not going to remember that. That's because with Pebble Geo, we don't have those full sets of user settings and database capability at the moment. So you really think of it just as an interactive printing, publishing, drawing tool. I don't know if that answers the question.
Lovely. And then just a couple of small comments. Jason Ery came in and said he's loving everything, but our time for afternoon tea is 9:30 p.m. his time in Sydney, so we may have to consider a Down Under episode.
So early evening beers instead of afternoon tea, Jason,
Yeah,
maybe.
maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Holger's said, "Great to see the jam on top of the cream." I was wondering if we'd get that comment eventually.
Right.
No one's actually said anything about that so
Now,
far.
yeah, interesting, because obviously that's a stock image, and I couldn't find one that did it the right way round, Holger. So,
But for me, that is the right way round. I'm dairy first, so I challenge anyone
yeah,
to.
I get if you're doing a slice of toast, you'd never put the jam on and then the butter. But personally, I would go that way round with a cream tea. Just putting it out there.
I've got a couple more technical things actually. Lauren has come in and asked, "Can you draw more than one line to display two different cross sections?" It's a good question.
Yeah, so I guess the short answer is yes, but you just have to draw one, then print it, and then draw the next one. So as I said, it's not going to remember that line of section or anything you did. The only, I think actually it might remember your print settings from one session to the next, but it doesn't remember what line you've drawn. So I think the short answer is yes, but you just have to redraw it. So it's just a drawing tool, really.
Holger's followed up actually with his question about the PDF, saying, "Sorry, I meant the section image. Is it exportable other than a screenshot?"
So it can only be done as a PDF in the actual section itself. If you're talking about the section line on the map, yes, it's really only just a screenshot at this point. Although you probably could use the site plan tools if you're in the web version, but we'll probably make that the subject of another afternoon tea, not to overload it with too much detail today. So yeah, screenshot basically.
Lovely. Nick said it's a great and refreshing product at a reasonable price, much needed from the cumbersome other competition. So thank you for Nick for that. That's very positive. We like all the positive feedback we can get. I'm not seeing any further questions. Holger's followed up as vector, CAD, SHB, etc.
Yeah, so Holger, the short answer is no. So actually, behind the scenes, so everything that Pebble Geo prints as a report is a vector. So obviously, if you print anything out of Pebble Geo, so whether it's logs or plots or cross sections, if you zoom into it, you'll see obviously it is a vector, but it's really just a drawing. We behind the scenes do that as a drawing format rather than a PDF, and then we convert it to a PDF, and that's the way it works. So it is potentially possible that we could do that as a drawing, but it was, again, it wouldn't be something that we're going to CAD because it has no concept really of where it is geographically. It's just a drawing. So that might be one for further down the line. So I think the short answer is no at the moment, Holger, I'm afraid.
And then there's a question Nick's followed up with: is there a chance for a window of the geographic lock in the print settings?
Yeah, that's a good one, Nick. Yeah, that's a really good idea. I'm going to make a note of that. It's so funny, like we've been working on this for quite a few years now. So, I mean, Pebble Geo has been out over 2.5 years. And this is partly why we do these sessions, because someone will say something and it's like, oh yeah, it's actually a really good idea. So thank you. We will make a note of that one because that's a good. Sorry, turns out I can't write and talk at the same time. So I'm just drawing a little drawing of what that's going to look like for me to remind me. Right. So yeah. So no, but
yeah.
Yeah.
Lovely. So that looks like all the questions answered for now. If any further questions do come in, and you feel free to keep asking questions in the chat, even when the session's finished, because we will keep coming back to it just to double check, both on LinkedIn and it's also live on YouTube as well. So we will keep looking back just in case there's any questions in there that we can come to. Or if there's anything more sort of specific to your own requirements, drop us an email, hello@pebblegeo.com. And we'll come back to you.
Yeah,
I think that's about it, isn't it?
Holger says something.
Oh,
Do you publish your backlog? Does that, Holger, do you mean like a roadmap or the things we've already done? If you mean the things we've already done, I'm just going to try and find that link so I can pop it into the chat. Let me just bear with me for a second, talk amongst yourselves.
Does that mean the session backlog, sorry, or something technical?
Oh, yeah, I might be misinterpreted, Holger, again. If you mean the previous afternoon teas, they're all both in my feed on LinkedIn, and also they'll be on our Pebble Geo YouTube channel. So if you go to the Pebble Geo YouTube channel, they'll be under the live tab. I'm just looking for, just in case you meant what have we previously released and what are we planning to release, which might not be what you meant at all, but those are the release notes. I've just pasted a link that shows you what we have worked on. In terms of what we are working on, so Holger says, yes, roadmap. No, we don't publish a roadmap. So the way we work with Pebble Geo is effectively on a kind of 1 to 2 month cadence. And we work directly based on what our actual customers ask us to do, effectively. So there's a strategic backbone behind that, of course. But in terms of, Holger says, features in the pipeline, we don't generally publish a roadmap on that. It's completely iterative. So it's based on customer feedback from one release to the next. So the short answer is no. The slightly caveated short answer is that there are 1 or 2 strategic things that we're working on, which might be of interest. One of which is we're adding a database capability to Pebble Geo, which will solve some of these problems of, if I draw a line of section, can it remember it for the next session and things like that. So we are working on that. Generally, we don't say too much about what's coming up over the coming months, because we don't actually know, because it's based on what the customers need, basically.
Smashing. No more questions coming up, so hopefully that covers everything off for now. As I said, if you do have any further questions, pop them in the chat or drop us an email, hello@pebblego.com, and we'll be able to answer your questions. Otherwise, I think we need to find a shady spot now, Ben.
Yeah, hopefully the weather's breaking tomorrow. We can all get a bit of, we can all relax a bit, maybe get some sleep. So, yeah. So yeah, thank you very much for joining, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week.
Thank you.
Cheers.